Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and we're back again. This time we're going to do a classic. This is a Langley Lakecast Deluxe. I would put this reel on late 40s, early 50s. Could be earlier, but I would put it there. And as many of you may have been aware, if you were watching some of my history of reel manufacturers, Langley was an aluminum fabricator out in California. They had done a lot with the Air Force and building airplanes during World War II, and then they decided post-war they were going to start making fishing reels. And I like these reels a lot. They're aluminum. They very seldom show much wear. I mean, they can show dirt like is on this one, but that usually comes off pretty easily since it's aluminum. And lightweight. They had a good knowledge of what they can do with aluminum fabrication, and it shows in the products and in the quality that they did. Langley started with these as bait casting models, and then they also produced a line, I believe it was called Spincast. I actually did a video on one, but my mind fails me at the moment in terms of the actual names of their models. But they did well until they were acquired by Zebco, I believe in 1957 or 58. Zebco continued that spinning reel line for a while, and then basically the Langley name went away. But one of our viewers, we're going to thank one of our viewers for this. One of our viewers saw this as a preview quite some time ago and said, "Hey Dennis, are you ever going to do that Langley reel?" Well, truth be known, I had done it already, but thought I would take it apart and show you again how to service one of these if you have it, and we'll talk a little bit about the features and the functions. So these reels were very popular. They were introduced by William Shakespeare all the way back in the early 1900s with a bait casting feature and a level wind guide. And Shakespeare got the idea because there used to be a machine that would put thread on spools, bobbins I guess, that went like this, and he said, well gee, if you can do it for sewing machine thread, why can't you do it for fishing reel line? Adapted it, patented it, and then you were off to the races with the Shakespeare lines. And then this pretty much became the standard until spinning reels became popular post World War II, when the GIs who were returning from the war brought with them or remembered that they had spinning reels over in Europe at the time. And all of a sudden everybody was making spinning reels here post World War II. But at any rate, let's get started. We'll show you how this reel comes apart, how it was made, and you'll gain an appreciation for that. And if you have one, you'll wind up knowing how to service it. So there's two case screws. I was going to say three. There's two case screws that hold the outer case on. See if I can remember this. I recommend a couple of things as we do this. I recommend a parts tray to put your pieces and parts, because it's easy to lose track of these, and if you lose these, you're in trouble with getting replacement parts. These reels are antiques at this point. This one's over 50 years old now, and unless you have a parts reel, you're not going to find the parts in the marketplace for them. So use a parts tray. I use a protective glove on my hand to keep the oils and greases off. And I recommend that. You don't have to do that, but I recommend it. And I also recommend that you take pictures like we're doing here on the video. That way you'll have a reference point should you get lost along the way in terms of the reassembly. You'll be able to see the orientation of pieces and parts and how they go. And it doesn't have to be a video. Stop at critical junctures and use your cell phone camera, use a still camera, it doesn't matter. But take a couple of pictures to remind you of how these reels are set up. Okay, I think we can take that off at this point. I don't believe we have to remove the two inner screws, and sure enough, it comes off pretty easily. Kind of standard. This pinion gear is on the spool. It does remove. I'm going to put that right down here. We're going to clean that up a little bit. I'm going to use some light steel wool for that, just to get some old dried greases off. Then I'm going to use a fishing reel grease. In this case, I'm going to use Penn Precision reel grease to re-grease that so that this gear rides smoothly. I'm going to lock that gear in, and I'm going to put the fishing reel grease on that gear as well, and then I'm going to pull that whole spring spool assembly out, and I'm going to put that into my parts tray. That has been previously cleaned. As I mentioned, I had done this reel several weeks ago when I previewed it, but I just didn't do a video on it, so I'll dispense with the cleaning, and some of this will have grease on it already, and it'll just be for illustration points. In the back here you have a cup. You want to get the grease into that, and you'll notice the cup on the outside that is removable so that you can put new grease in without taking the whole reel apart. When you go to buy a reel, I bought this one on eBay. I don't think I paid more than maybe, I don't know, $10, and I purchased it solely for the purposes of doing a video on it to show folks about the reel. Make sure it has all the pieces and parts. These are caps here. You want to make sure that the caps are on it. Make sure that the line guide is on it. Hopefully the seller will give you a description. It will tell you that the reel is working or not working. They'll call it a parts reel if it's not working. Check the function of the worm gear. If you need to remove the pawl, I'm not going to do it here. If you need to remove the pawl, this has a flat piece of metal on there held down by a set screw. That's the pawl right under here. So again, they were pretty good about this. You can oil the pawl without removing the assembly. So just be aware of that, and make sure that all of the grooves in your worm gear are clean and don't have any old worn greases in there. And again, I had serviced this earlier and taken care of that, so I didn't want to spend too much time doing that. Some of this aluminum has light pitting to it, but otherwise it's structurally sound. Okay, I'll lay that down to the side, and we'll go to the business end of this reel. This is one piece forged aluminum. Again, that's what Langley kind of did as their primary skill set, and it has the gearing and everything accessed by these two screws on this side. So you want to take those off to go ahead and do the internals of this reel. Get a screwdriver that is appropriate for the slot in the screw, and then remove the screw. Don't go with a small screwdriver. You risk butterflying that slot, and that'll only make it worse. So I want to pause for a moment here. I want to thank our hometown heroes, our first responders, our law enforcement, EMT, local first aid and ambulance squads, anybody who's working in the hospitals to help us combat this coronavirus, whether you're staff or whether you're doctors and nurses and in the medical profession. If you're working in the long-term care facilities and nursing homes, thank you for everything it is you're doing, trying to keep people safe and to make people well who have contacted this disease. I've been noting all along we're in January, and I do have an offer for January to repair a reel of your choice at no charge to you. So if you are one of those first responders and local hometown heroes, then by all means please contact me by email on the business card that follows, and I'll be happy to provide you with the information on how to send that reel along to me for servicing. Okay, so we're back to the reel now. We took the handle screw off. We're going to remove the handle. These are, I used to say bone. I'm not quite sure what these are made of. It's probably just plastic, but whatever it is, it's a nice kind of mottled handle, and I'm lucky in this case both of these are turning. If you found that these were sticky or difficult at all, go ahead and grab a penetrating oil, get it right at the seam. And also there's usually a press stud on the top. Just put a little bit in there, let it work its way through. I'm just going to put that off to the side. That's the way you would let it work through. And we'll come over here to get to the gear now on the reel. So I've been lucky. This screwdriver is an electrician's screwdriver. People ask me about that. But I've been lucky that seems to have the right slot width, if you will. It's a 3/16 electrician's screwdriver, and it seems to work on these. It definitely works on the pen reels. On most of the reels I work on, it seems to be very convenient to me. I like that rubber shield. That rubber shield or plastic shield there is meant to guard against sparking a hot electric wire when you're replacing a receptacle. But in my case, it's a nice alternative to grip it as well. So I just took the 2 screws out. Those 2 screws hold a plate. The plate holds the main gear and they back into the assembly. As I mentioned, this is a solid forged piece here, so there's only one way to get it out, and that's through that plate. And we should be able to just pull that up. There you go, there's your plate. Again, some of this was serviced earlier, so this is more an illustration than a need to service. That's a grease cap up there. It's going to fit the other side of the spool shaft, so get grease into that. And then we have a gear that serves the 2 purposes. The one gear drives the spool, and on the other side of this, that gear drives the level wind gear over here on the worm. Okay, so you can see that that grease is still fresh there. Make sure that you check the teeth to make sure that there's no bends or breaks or the like in there. And then do the same with the main gear, which is going to drive the spool. Get a good amount of grease on that. Make sure your surface on the interior of the reel is clean. Again, you can use a WD-40 or a penetrating oil or any general degreaser if you find that there's grease that is built up in there. The only grease built up here now happens to be the grease I put on earlier, but that's okay. Then make sure you get some grease onto the shaft, which is where the main gear is going to go now. Give it a spin, make sure that everything's working nicely. And then you can come on back and you can grease the outer side here of the main gear. And you want to do that because that's going to ride in the channel here. Then you can go ahead and install the cover back on for the gear. You did not need to remove the spool adjuster. You can, particularly if it's hard to adjust. If it is, then you probably got some dirt in there, and you would want to remove it, clean the threads, and put it back that way. Okay, I'm going to put the 2 side plate screws on and hold the gear assembly to the side plate. While I do that, I want to ask all of you, if you haven't subscribed, to please subscribe to my channel. It does help keep it vibrant, and it helps you keep aware of what it is that I'm doing, because I do all kinds of reels. In this case, I'm doing a vintage baitcaster, but I do spinning reels, I do modern reels, I do conventional ocean reels, I do lever drags, so don't miss any of those episodes, and I do try to post frequently, and the best way to do that is to subscribe and to hit the notifications button so that you see them all. In addition to that, I'd ask you to ask your fishing friends, or tell your fishing friends about my channel, and if they have an interest, ask them to subscribe as well. It's only going to benefit all of us in doing so. Okay, spool back on now. And now we can put our gear back on. You need to align the plate holes with the screw holes. And then you probably need to turn the main gear just to seat it properly. And I probably should have done that. I probably should have put the handle on next. Then you can turn it to make sure that you mesh the main gear with the gear from the worm drive. Then we're going to go ahead and put the handle screw on, and then we'll put the 2 side plate screws on, and then we'll give it a test. Put the 2 side plate screws in now. And I like to get them started by hand, that way I know that they're threading properly. If you cross thread one of these, again, the same issue is going to happen. You're going to be in a position where you can't get a replacement. So take your time, be patient. I think another piece of advice that I've often given over time is have a sense of humor, because things will go wrong, and sometimes you just got to laugh at yourself. But patience and sense of humor are two keys to reel repair, and if you're involved in this or thinking about getting involved in it, then by all means you would want to do that. Look at how smooth this is. This reel is 60 years old plus. Just a beautiful reel. So these reels are called knuckle busters. If anybody is ever wondering about the term, if you went to cast this reel, there is no free spool here. This back pedals. And if you went to cast this thing and held your rod and reel like this with the thumb to control the free spool, when that handle backed off, it would hit you right in the knuckles. So you learn to cast free and away from that handle to accomplish your goal. This one probably just needs a minor adjustment on the spool, get it to spin even faster and freer. And that little squirt I gave it on the handles has those knobs turning beautifully. There you go. That's it. This is the Langley Lakecast Deluxe. It's a nice example of a US-made bait casting reel with the line guide feature and function, made somewhere in the 1940s or 50s. We know that the company was only making fishing reels basically from post-World War II, which would be 1945, through its acquisition by Zebco in 1957. So it had about a 12 or 13-year run. This was made in there somewhere. We know that Langley started with these reels and then went over to the spinning reel. So it's quite possible that this reel was made as early as 1945. But I'm not a reel historian, and that's just a guess. So I hope you've enjoyed this. If you want to see more, again, please subscribe. If you like this one, please indicate that on the video. If you have a reel that needs to be serviced, please contact me. I do reel repair by mail. I'll be happy to provide you with service information if you send me an email note off of the address on the business card. And finally, if you're a healthcare professional, remember my offer out there. First responder, home healthcare professional, of servicing one of your reels at no cost to you during the month of January. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you have a great day. Please stay safe, stay well, and stay watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.